Oh boy, take a look at this tree. It's got a vertical split in it. It's got sort of two trunks there, and they have split apart down into the structure of the tree. You could look through there, you could see trees, sky, clouds, and wood. And what you can't see in this picture is if the tree were to fall, the section closest to us were to fall in the direction it'd want to fall naturally, it would land right on the house. This is not a Brothers Fab Shop job. This is just something us brothers went out to do at a friend's house on a weekend. What we're doing is we're chaining this together with our chain and binders to make it act as one tree still while we cut it down. I don't know if 3 binders was necessary, but it's definitely not going to hurt anything to hold it all together because trees are big, they have a lot of leverage, and they're strong. Now we were getting rid of this limb because it could have hung up on that tree over there as it fell and caused something strange to happen. So it's easier just to get it out of the picture right now. And I approached from that direction with my ladder because the tree protected me from the limb falling as it fell. Now we're getting that debris out of there because 45 degrees back away from the way you're felling the tree is your escape route. You don't want anything in there to trip on. A lot of chainsaw accidents are by tripping and falling on something. Now we put the sling around, we're tying it off to my truck. How far do you know to park that pickup away so the tree doesn't land on it? That is a great question. There's a nice little trick for figuring that out right on site, and I'll show you that in an upcoming YouTube short. So if you're not subscribed and you want to see that trick, make sure you subscribe, and that short will be coming out. Now what I'm doing is I'm marking out on the tree where I want my notch cut to be so that I'm not cutting too deep. You don't want your notch to be any deeper than 1/3 of the tree, but you want the back of the notch, which is going to be one side of your hinge wood, to be at least 80% of the diameter of the tree. So I think this tree was a 32, which means you'd want your hinge wood to be about 25.5 inches wide at least, but you don't want to be cutting over 1/3 of the way through the trunk to get that. And it was pretty close on this tree because it's kind of an oblong shape, and we were following it, the thin way. So I'm just taking my time to get those marks on there so that when I'm cutting with the saw, I don't have to think about that as much. I've got it laid out, so, layout is everything. Once you have that, you just cut to it. And that's what I'm doing now. I like to do my down cut first at 45 degrees. It's easier to aim the tree, I think, like that, because your saw wants to stay in the slot. You can hold it with one hand and just take your time to aim it. This is a 20-inch bar on this chainsaw, so I have to come from each side on this tree, and then I'm knocking out that wedge to reveal the notch. And I'm cleaning up that notch because I want my hinge wood to be nice and clean. I don't want anything to cause this tree to want to roll or flop or do something weird. Now I'm marking my no cut pass line because you want your hinge wood to be at least 10% the thickness of the tree. So that'd be 3.2 inches in this case, about 3 1/4. Now I'm taking my time to mark out my back cut so that I am coming through at least 2 inches. I like to be like right 2 inches above the bottom of my notch cut from the other side. The base cut of my notch on the other side. And once I have that all laid out, then there's nothing to do but to make the back cut and make sure I don't overcut past those do not cut past lines. We don't have a lot of pressure on that tree just yet. We have some, but I'm going to get through most of my back cut before we add the pressure. John's on the phone with Stevens, and he's letting him know to back up, in addition to hand signals. That way Steven can really focus on being slow, smooth, and steady, and not wondering what he's supposed to be doing. And we had one of the limbs break that the sling was laying over. Kind of compression fracture, if you will. Now I drove my felling wedges. There's enough room between the tips of those wedges and the hinge wood to slip my saw in there and finish the cut. Now if you'll notice now that I have such a big back cut and the pressure on, I'm walking around the tree on the notch side, the way it's going to fall, because a tree like this it's called barber chair, and it can split out and kick the back up in the air. With the chains on here, I doubt it would do it, but you know, I can run out of the way of the falling tree if I need to. If it just barber chairs and kicks me all of a sudden, there's not really much I can do. So right there, I was catching the saw a little bit, and I moved to the back of it and kicked out one of my wedges. I made the decision to keep cutting because we've got a lot of pressure up top. Our hinge wood's getting thin. I've got a felling wedge in already. And I like to be cutting as the tree's falling so that it's not a thick enough piece of hinge that it gets the tree to hang up partway through. Look at that. Did you see those trunks move independently of each other? The chains held it together. It actually bent one of the eyes on our binders. But that's a small price to play for getting a tree like this on the ground safely. If you have any questions about the notch cuts, back cuts, hinge wood, anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll answer with what I know, and maybe somebody that does this more often than we do on weekends would be able to chime in as well and share some valuable information.